Nancy. I'm the Kentucky Garden Gal, and in this week's vlog, I'm going to bring you along as I plan my cottage garden. As many of you know, we can find a lot of inspiration in Facebook groups found on Facebook. And one of my favorite groups it's called Cottage Living. And these folks just have beautiful cottages. Both they decorate in the cottage style inside and out. Some of them don't necessarily have a cottage house, but they decorate in the cottage style, and it just turns out beautifully. So I ask two questions to the group. What are the elements of a cottage garden, and can you share photos of your cottage garden? And they were so generous in what they responded with. So let's get started, and I want to share with you what these folks told me. So when we're talking about a cottage garden, it's a very informal design. You are going to have lots of layers and textures. You may want to start out with your framework, so you would have perhaps a fence. And your cottage garden can be your whole front yard, your whole backyard, as big or as small as you want it. It's your garden. It's up to you how you want to design it. But one of the things that just says cottage garden is wattle fencing. And I will put a photo up on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. And this can be made just by gathering things that you find on your property. You can have your whole garden fenced off in wattle fencing, or you could just have a portion. You could have it around plants. However you would like to do it, you can just play with it and make it your own. So something else that we want to consider when we're planning our cottage garden is pathways. We want to have our pathways that lead us into our garden or sections of our garden. So those could be out, you could have just your grass that you could mow, you could have pebbles, you could have stone, you could have brick, lots and lots of different choices for your pathways. Another thing that we would like to consider is a place to sit. You might want a little table, or you may want a bench where you could sit down, have a cup of coffee in the morning and look at your garden, watch the birds, the bees, and the butterflies. Or you may want to have a little table and chairs where you could sit down and have lunch. So that would be something that you would consider for your cottage garden. Something else, when you're going into your cottage garden, a little gate. That just says cottage garden to me. And you can use your imagination. There's all different styles. Where I'm going to have my cottage garden, I have a fence up, and there's a what we call a screen door, and I went to the big box store, bought a screen door, and put it up, and that's my entry to the cottage garden. Another thing that you want to consider, you want things that are trailing and vining. So it could be clematis, it could be roses. I'm going to have moon vine in mine. So you want something that those can grow up. So a trellis, an arbor, a pergola, things like that. So I want to share with you the flowers that this group highly recommended for a cottage garden. Hollyhocks, cleome, foxglove, dahlias, larkspur, lavender, columbine, phlox, sweet pea, cosmo, clematis, iris, yarrow, daylilies, and lupin. Now, that's just some of the suggestions that they made. There's many other flowers that are considered cottage garden flowers. So I wanted to show you some of the seeds that I have to put in my cottage garden. This is a Sweet William. It is a biannual. It will flower from late spring to the last frost, and it is approximately 2 inches tall. So, 2 feet tall. So I'm gonna have this in the middle of my cottage garden. The things that I would have in the back would be the taller plants like the hollyhocks, the foxglove, the larkspur, things that get a little bit taller. So speaking of larkspur, these are the seeds that I bought, and this comes in pink, blue, rose, lavender, and white. It gets 3 foot tall, so I would have this behind the Sweet William. It is a perennial, and it is a cousin to the delphinium. But doesn't that just scream cottage garden? I think that's so pretty. As I was looking for daisies, I came across this package of seeds, which is English daisies. These come in white, pink, and rose colored. They are fragrant. They will grow to 8 inches tall, and I'm going to want to put those in a little bit of shade, and I have made a note that these seed aggressively. So I'll kind of want to keep an eye on that. I don't want it to take over my cottage garden. This is snapdragons, and this seed packet happens to be empty because I have already planted this. This is a hardy annual. I'm going to plant these 10 inches apart, and they will get 6 to 8 inches tall, and these need full sun. But look how beautiful those flowers are. This is lupin. This is a perennial. They are 3 foot tall. You want to plant them in sun to partial shade. These come in lavender blue, pink, red, white, and yellow. In this photograph, we see an early spring garden for a cottage garden, and we have our foxglove, our peonies, our daisies, and our irises. And look how soft these colors are. Now your foxglove is a biannual, so you will plant it one season and you'll have flowers the next. Your peonies that's a perennial. Your irises, that's a perennial, that will come back. These all come in multiple colors, so this would be some good choices to add to your cottage garden. Shrubs are something else that we want to consider in our cottage garden. Those really anchor our garden. They could be a centerpiece, or it depends on what they are. Hydrangeas, of course, are beautiful and flowing. They do really well if you want to cut them and bring them in. They're long lasting. Peonies, those will come up in the spring for you, and there's a variety of colors there. They also do very well if you want to bring those in. Roses. Roses are just a must for a cottage garden, and they come in a variety of colors. You can have, of course, your standalone bush, or you can have climbing roses. Whatever you prefer, however you want to design your cottage garden. And a tree that I really like, this can be a tree or a shrub. It seems to do really well for me here in Kentucky. I love crepe myrtles, and they come in different colors. They just seem to bloom a long time in the summer, and once you learn how to take care of them, they're actually fairly easy to take care of. One lady in the group said an apple tree. She said, to me, an apple tree just screams cottage garden. And one of the really good things about having fruit in your cottage garden is, number one, you're going to have food, edible food. But the second thing that I like is when the fruit falls on the ground, you will really notice a lot of bees and butterflies. And in my garden, I have 2 peach trees, an apple tree, and figs. And I have noticed that the butterflies really love the decaying fruit. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've enjoyed spending time with you. And I also hope that you have been encouraged to get your pen and your paper and start planning your cottage garden. For inspiration, I am going to put up photographs of different cottage style gardens. Mainly they came from the Cottage Living group. Some of them came from the internet. But just enjoy the photographs and enjoy planning your cottage garden. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.